The execution platform stood in the center of North Haven's main square, a monument to conquest built from the timbers of defeated ships. 5,000 souls packed the cobblestones, their breath rising like smoke in the morning cold. They had come to witness justice. They had come to see a queen humbled. Kaelen Stormrider sat on his throne of war-blackened steel, still wearing the armor that bore the stains of yesterday's victory. At 42, he wore the weight of 15 years of rule like a second skin. His hands rested on the armrests, steady and still. The crowd watched him with the careful attention people gave to wolves, not metaphorical wolves, the real thing. They had seen what he became when the beast took over. He had grown tired of it, tired of the fear, tired of being more monster than man. The guards brought her forward through the parted masses. Seraphina Ashwood walked with her head high, silver chains gleaming at her wrists. They were light chains, ceremonial more than functional, but they made the point clear enough. Prisoner, defeated, conquered. She wore the remnants of her battlefield armor, the leather torn and scorched, the metal plates dented from impacts that should have killed her. Her dark hair hung loose around her shoulders, matted with dried blood that was probably not her own. At 34, she had the lean hardness of a career soldier, the kind of woman who had earned every scar on her body through competence rather than chance. Kaelen had studied her for 6 months across a battlefield. Now he studied her up close. She was human, fully human. No shifter blood in her veins, yet she had held her kingdom against him for 4 months, had killed his soldiers with nothing but steel and strategy, had made him respect her more than any alpha he had ever faced. She did not look at the crowd, she looked at him. And in her eyes, he saw no fear, just calculation. She was already planning, already strategizing. Even standing on an execution platform, she was thinking 3 moves ahead. The magistrate read the charges in a voice that echoed off the surrounding buildings. High treason, armed rebellion, the murder of 17 North Haven soldiers in a siege that lasted 4 months. The list went on. The crowd listened with the kind of attention usually reserved for theater. They already knew how this ended. Kaelen raised his hand. The magistrate fell silent. The square held its breath. "Seraphina Ashwood," he said. His voice carried without effort, trained by years of battlefield commands. "You are the last of your royal line. Your father is dead. Your kingdom is ashes. Your army is scattered. I could show you mercy. I could imprison you in comfort for the rest of your days. Or I could do what my council demands and end this now." He paused. "Do you have anything to say?" She met his eyes without flinching. Her voice came clear and cold. "If this is your justice, then I accept it, but do not call it honor." The crowd murmured. No one spoke to the king like that. No one dared. The last person who had challenged him publicly had been torn apart by his wolf form in front of the entire court. That was 10 years ago, back when Kaelen still shifted regularly. Back when he still believed the wolf made him stronger. Kaelen stood. The armor he wore weighed 60 pounds, but he moved like it was silk. He descended the 3 steps from his throne with the predatory grace that never quite left, even in human form. 10 years of regular shifting had changed his body on a fundamental level, made him faster, stronger, more dangerous. It had also made him something he hated. The crowd drew back, creating space without conscious thought. They knew what he was. They had seen him shift. They had watched him tear through enemy lines with claws and teeth, more beast than man. But that was years ago. 5 years to be exact. 5 years since he last allowed himself to fully transform. 5 years of fighting the wolf that lived beneath his skin. Fighting and losing, inch by inch, day by day. The longer he went without shifting, the harder it became to control. Paradox of the curse. Shift too often, lose yourself to the beast. Refuse to shift, and the beast grows stronger in the darkness, waiting for the moment you slip. He stopped 3 feet from her, close enough to smell the smoke and blood that clung to her skin, close enough to see the exhaustion hiding behind her defiance, close enough to catch her scent, human, unbonded, no mate mark on her throat, no pack bonds tying her to anyone. She was as alone as he was. "You have one regret," he said quietly. "You told me yesterday, when they brought you in. Do you remember?" "I remember." "Tell me." Seraphina's jaw tightened. For the first time, something flickered in her expression. Not fear, something colder. That I did not kill you when I had the chance. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then Kaelen laughed. It was not the laugh of a king enjoying a jest. It was darker than that, edged with something like relief. He turned to face the crowd, his arms spread wide. "Do you hear that?" he called out. Finally, someone who tells the truth to my face." He spun back to her, and his smile was a wolf's smile. His canines were slightly longer than a human's should be, a permanent mark of those 10 years when he shifted too often. Too many transformations had left their mark. "Remove her chains." The guards hesitated. His closest advisor, a gray-haired veteran named Garrett Stone, stepped forward from his position near the throne. "Your Majesty, I said remove them." The guards looked at Stone. Stone looked at Kaelen, reading something in his king's expression that made him nod once. The guards unlocked the silver chains. They fell to the platform with a metallic whisper. Seraphina rubbed her wrists, her eyes never leaving Kaelen's face. She was watching him the way a soldier watched an enemy, looking for weaknesses, for patterns, for the moment to strike. "What game is this?" "No game." Kaelen stepped closer. The crowd pressed forward, trying to hear. "I will give you a chance. Strike me, here, now, in front of 5,000 witnesses. If I do not block it, you walk free. You return to Rivenwood. I will give you safe passage and enough gold to rebuild. And if you block it, then you serve me, not as a slave, as my chief military advisor. You will have a seat on my war council, a voice in how North Haven is governed, true authority." Seraphina stared at him like he had lost his mind. Maybe he had. The wolf inside him stirred, interested. It recognized strength when it saw it, and this human woman had more strength than most alphas he had known. Why? Because I have lived 20 years surrounded by people who flinch when I enter a room. Because every piece of advice I receive is carefully calculated to tell me what the speaker thinks I want to hear. Because the wolf inside me grows stronger every day, and I am running out of reasons to keep it caged. Because I am dying of loneliness, and I did not even realize it until you slapped my face yesterday. He had not meant to say that last part. It slipped out, raw and honest. He saw her eyes widen slightly. "Choose," he said. She looked at him for a long moment. The square waited. Then she drew back her arm and struck him across the face with the full force of her trained soldier's strength. The crack of impact echoed like a pistol shot. Kaelen's head snapped to the side. Blood welled from his split lip, running down his chin in a thin crimson line. The crowd gasped as one. Inside him, the wolf snarled, wanting to retaliate, wanting to show dominance. He forced it down, forced himself to stay human. Kaelen straightened slowly. He touched his mouth, looked at the blood on his fingers, then smiled. The wolf settled, appeased. It respected the challenge, craved it even. Again. The word fell into the silence like a stone into still water. "What?" "Do it again. I want to be sure it was not luck." Seraphina's hand was still raised, frozen in the follow-through. She stared at him with an expression that was part disbelief, part fury, part something else he could not quite name. "You are insane." "Perhaps, but I am also the most powerful man in 3 kingdoms, and I spend every night sitting alone in a castle that feels like a prison, surrounded by people who are too afraid to tell me the truth. The wolf inside me grows hungrier with each passing year. 5 years I have gone without shifting. 5 years of clawing my way back to humanity. And in 5 more years I will lose that battle entirely. So if madness is what it takes to find one honest person before I become a monster permanently, then call me mad and be done with it." He stepped even closer, his voice dropping. "Hit me again. Prove to me that you are not like them. Prove that you are not afraid." She studied him. He could see her working through it, trying to understand the trap she thought she was walking into. The wolf inside him watched her with predatory interest. She was intelligent, quick, adaptable, exactly what he needed. Then something changed in her expression, a decision made. She lowered her hand. "No, no, I will not be your entertainment. I will not perform because you command it. If you want to execute me, do it. If you want to imprison me, do that. But I will not dance when you whistle like some trained animal. I am Seraphina Ashwood. I am the daughter of Edmund Ashwood. I am a general who has killed better men than you, and I will not play your games." The square was so quiet that Kaelen could hear his own heartbeat. The wolf inside him stopped its restless pacing, went still. She had done something no one else had managed in 15 years. She had surprised him, challenged him, refused him. And the wolf, that feral thing that lived in his bones, purred with satisfaction. He looked at her, this woman who had just refused a direct order from a king in front of 5,000 people, and felt something shift in his chest, something he had thought was long dead. Respect. He turned to face the crowd. You have witnessed Lady Seraphina refuse a direct order from her king. By the laws of North Haven, this is treason. He paused, letting that sink in. But I am the law, and I say that her refusal proves exactly what I needed to know. She is no one's puppet. She bends for no one, not even me, especially not me. He turned back to her. You chose, and your choice was to refuse both options I offered, so I will offer a third. From this moment forward, you are Chief Military Advisor to the Crown. You will attend every war council. You will have full authority to question any military decision I make, and you will be paid a general's salary, housed in the east wing of the palace, and given full freedom of movement within North Haven's borders. I have no interest in serving you. I know. That is exactly why you are perfect for the job. Everyone else wants something from me. You just want me dead. It is refreshing. He held out his hand. Not a command. An offer. The wolf watched through his eyes, curious to see what she would do. Seraphina looked at his hand, then at his face, then at the 5,000 people watching them. He could see her calculating, weighing options, looking for the angle. There was no angle. He was being honest. It was such a rare thing in his life that he had almost forgotten what it felt like. She took his hand. Her grip was iron. Human strength, but iron nonetheless. If I do this, I do it my way. I would not have it any other way. And if you ever try to kiss me without permission, I will put a knife between your ribs. Fair enough. The crowd erupted, some in confusion, some in outrage, some in the kind of shocked approval that comes from witnessing something unprecedented. Kaelen raised their joined hands above his head like a fighter declaring victory. People of North Haven, your new chief military advisor. As the crowd's noise swelled around them, Seraphina leaned close enough that only he could hear. I still hate you. Good, maybe that will keep me honest. He released her hand and turned to descend from the platform. Stone met him at the bottom, his weathered face unreadable. That was either brilliant or the stupidest thing you have ever done. I have not decided which yet. She will try to kill you, you know, eventually. I know, but at least it will be interesting. Stone shook his head, but there was something like approval in his eyes. He had served Kaelen for 15 years. He knew the weight of the crown better than anyone. He also knew what the wolf was doing to his king, knew that Kaelen was running out of time. As they walked back toward the palace, Kaelen glanced over his shoulder. Seraphina stood on the platform still, surrounded by guards who were not quite sure what to do with her. She was staring at him with an expression that promised future violence. He smiled. Inside him, the wolf settled into a contented silence for the first time in years. For the first time in years, he looked forward to tomorrow. The memory came that night, as it always did when the adrenaline faded and the silence pressed in. 6 months ago, the last battle of Rivenwood. Kaelen had stood on a hill overlooking the burning fields and known that this was wrong. 3,000 Rivenwood soldiers defending their homeland against 15,000 North Haven troops. The math was simple. The outcome inevitable. Yet the siege dragged on for 4 months, bleeding both sides dry. Edmund Ashwood refused to surrender. Kaelen had sent 3 separate offers of terms. Each time, Edmund sent back a reply written in his own hand. Thank you, but no. His kingdom would not kneel while he still drew breath. Kaelen respected that. He also knew it had to end. The scouts had found the hidden tunnel 2 weeks into the siege, an old supply route that led from the palace directly to the forest beyond the walls. Kaelen could have sent assassins, could have slipped poison into the water supply, could have ended it quietly. Instead, he sent a challenge. Single combat, Edmund and Kaelen, winner takes the kingdom. His council thought he was mad. Stone argued for 3 hours straight. You are an alpha, Stone had said. He is human, 60 years old. This is not honor. This is execution. But Kaelen knew something they did not. He knew that he was tired of the killing, tired of ordering young men to die for territory that neither side needed, tired of being the monster that children feared in their nightmares, tired of the wolf demanding blood. Edmund accepted within a day. They met in the valley between the armies at dawn. No audience except the soldiers on both sides, watching from their respective positions. Edmund was 60 years old, scarred from a lifetime of combat, walking with the slight limp of a man who had taken too many hits to his right knee. Kaelen was 42, in his absolute prime, trained by the best swordsman in 3 kingdoms, and blessed with the shifter strength that made him half again as fast as any human. Even without shifting, his body carried the wolf's enhancements: faster reflexes, greater endurance, heightened senses. It was not a fair fight, they both knew it. Edmund drew his sword, a plain steel blade worn smooth from decades of use. No fancy etching, no jeweled pommel, just a tool that had served him well. "You could still walk away," Edmund said. His voice was rough from years of shouting orders over battlefield din. "Take your army north. Let my people be." "I could. But we both know I will not. This has gone too far. It ends today." "Then let it end with honor, at least." They fought. The first exchange was cautious. Edmund opened with a low feint toward Kaelen's knee, drawing the younger man's blade down, then immediately shifted to a high thrust aimed at the throat. It was textbook, executed with the kind of muscle memory that came from 40 years of practice. Kaelen parried with minimal movement, recognizing the trap for what it was. If he had committed fully to defending the low attack, that throat thrust would have ended it before it began. Edmund smiled grimly. They both knew what that exchange meant. This was not going to be a quick execution. The old man still had tricks to teach. They circled. Kaelen was taller, his reach longer by 4 inches. Edmund compensated by staying mobile, never letting Kaelen establish the distance he needed for his power strikes. When Kaelen pressed forward, Edmund gave ground smoothly, maintaining the gap. When Kaelen hesitated, Edmund slipped in close where his shorter blade had the advantage. Edmund fought like a man with nothing to lose and everything to protect. He fought defensively, conserving energy, using footwork and positioning to compensate for his age. He had fought more battles than Kaelen had years. Every parry was economical, every counterattack calculated. He never committed to a full offensive, never extended himself beyond the point where he could recover. Pure defensive genius. Kaelen fought like a man who was tired of fighting. He could have ended it in the first 30 seconds, could have used his superior speed to overwhelm the older man's defenses, hammered him with strength until exhaustion and age caught up with him. The wolf inside him demanded it, demanded the kill, demanded dominance. Instead, he found himself pulling his strikes, offering openings, waiting. 5 minutes in, Edmund's breathing grew labored. His parries came a fraction slower. Kaelen saw an opening, a clean line to Edmund's exposed left side. He thrust. Edmund somehow twisted away, the blade missing by inches, and Edmund's counter came wickedly fast, slicing across Kaelen's forearm. First blood, not deep, but enough to show that the old wolf still had teeth. The wolf inside Kaelen snarled, wanted to shift, wanted to end this with claws and fangs. He forced it down. This was a duel of honor, not a massacre. Waiting for what? For Edmund to surrender, for some miracle that would let them both walk away from this. But Edmund did not surrender. He pressed forward despite his failing lungs, sweat streaming down his weathered face, breathing hard but never stopping. He was magnificent in his refusal to yield. When Kaelen gave him openings, Edmund took them without hesitation, landing cuts on Kaelen's shoulder, his thigh, his ribs. None serious, all calculated to show that he was still in this fight. They fought for 20 minutes. By the end, Edmund was gasping, his right leg barely supporting him, the old knee injury finally giving out. But his eyes stayed sharp, tracking Kaelen's movements with the focus of a predator. He lunged forward one last time, attempting to disarm Kaelen with a risky maneuver that would have worked against a lesser opponent. A twist of the wrist combined with a step inside Kaelen's guard that should have sent the younger man's sword spinning away. His boot slipped on blood-slicked grass. He fell. Kaelen's instincts took over. His sword thrust forward before his conscious mind could stop it. The blade slid between Edmund's ribs with the sickening ease of steel cutting flesh. Edmund's eyes went wide, not with fear, with something like disappointment. Kaelen caught him as he fell, lowering him gently to the grass. Blood spread across Edmund's chest in a crimson tide. The wound was mortal. They both knew it. "I did not mean to," Kaelen said. His voice sounded strange in his own ears. "I did not want this." Edmund's hand gripped Kaelen's arm with surprising strength. "My son, listen." "I am listening." "You fight like a man with doubt. That is good. That means you still have a soul. Do not lose it. Do not let this war define you. Do not let the wolf win." Kaelen wanted to explain that it was too late, that the war had defined him for 15 years, that he could not remember who he had been before the killing started, that the wolf won a little more every day. Edmund's breathing grew shallow, his grip weakened.
My daughter, Seraphina, she will want revenge. She will try to kill you.
I know. She is my best, my brightest. Treat her well. She will need a good man, a better man than I was, a better man than you think you are. The words made no sense. Edmund was dying. His mind was wandering. Rest, Kaelen said. It was inadequate, meaningless. What did you say to a man you had just killed? Edmund smiled. It was a sad smile, full of regret and acceptance. I am going to see my wife now. Finally. Tell Seraphina I loved her. Tell her to be smarter than her father. Tell her that the wolf can be tamed, but only by someone who does not fear it. His hand fell away. Kaelen knelt in the grass, holding the body of a king he had respected, and felt something break inside his chest. The wolf howled in triumph, howled for blood, howled until Kaelen wanted to shift right there, wanted to let the beast out, wanted to run until he forgot what he had done. He did not, but it was close. From the Rivenwood walls, a scream echoed across the valley, high and raw and full of anguish. Seraphina had been watching from the battlements. Kaelen looked up and saw her collapse, held up only by her sisters on either side. He stood, blood on his hands and sword, and walked back to his army. Behind him, Rivenwood's gates opened, not in surrender, in shock, in the numb acceptance that comes when the last hope dies. They took the city within the hour. Kaelen gave strict orders: no looting, no assault. Any man who harmed a civilian would hang. The wolf had taken enough today. It would not have more. His soldiers obeyed. They always did. But they also whispered. They said their king had gone soft, that he mourned their enemies more than he celebrated their victories. They were right. That night, Kaelen went to the dungeons where they had imprisoned the royal family. 3 sisters: Seraphina, 34, Mira, 31, Elara, 28. Seraphina sat in the corner of her cell, knees drawn up, staring at nothing. She did not look at him when he approached, did not react when he spoke. Your father was a brave man. She finally looked at him. Her eyes were red but dry. No tears, just a hatred so pure it could have cut glass.
Get out!
I wanted to tell you that he died with honor, that his last words were of you, that he asked me to tell you he loved you.
Get out!
Her voice cracked on the second word. Kaelen stepped back, suddenly aware that his presence was a cruelty in itself. What did he think would happen? That she would thank him for killing her father honorably? He left, gave orders that she be moved to better quarters, that all 3 sisters be given food, clean clothes, and whatever comforts could be arranged within reason. It did not help. It could never help. That was 6 months ago. Now, lying in his bed in the palace that felt like a tomb, Kaelen touched the split lip where Seraphina had struck him. It still stung. The wolf purred contentedly. It liked her, wanted her, saw her as a challenge worth pursuing. For once, Kaelen and the wolf agreed on something. Tomorrow she would attend her first war council. Tomorrow he would give her real authority and see what she did with it. Tomorrow, maybe, he would stop feeling like a dead man walking through his own life. He closed his eyes. Sleep did not come. It rarely did anymore. The wolf never truly rested. Instead, he lay awake and listened to the silence and tried not to think about Edmund's last words. The wolf can be tamed, but only by someone who does not fear it. He had failed at being a good man already, but maybe, if he was very careful and very lucky, he could at least be an honest one.
2
weeks later, the war council met in a stone chamber in the heart of the palace. 12 men sat around a table made from a single massive oak, its surface scarred by decades of maps and wine spills and angry fists. Kaelen sat at the head. Stone sat to his right, as always. The other 10 were a mixture of generals, advisors, and nobles who had proven themselves useful enough to keep around. When Seraphina entered, the room went silent. She wore clean clothes now, simple traveling leathers that marked her as a soldier rather than a prisoner. Someone had cleaned and braided her hair. She moved with only the slightest limp. Whatever injury still plagued her from the final battle, she was hiding it well. She looked at the empty seat to Kaelen's left and understood what it meant. The seat of honor. The seat that had been empty since Stone's predecessor died 5 years ago. Sit, Kaelen said. She sat. The men around the table watched her like she was a snake that might strike at any moment. The wolf inside Kaelen watched them watching her, territorial, protective. He forced it down. "Gentlemen," Kaelen said, "you all know Lady Seraphina. Some of you fought against her. All of you know her reputation. She is now my chief military advisor. Treat her accordingly." A general near the far end of the table cleared his throat. Marcus Torvin, commander of the 5th, older than Kaelen by a decade, scarred from 3 different wars, conservative in his tactics and suspicious of change. "With respect, Your Majesty, is it wise to place a former enemy in a position of such authority? Your concern is noted, it is also irrelevant. The decision is made." Torvin subsided, but his expression made his feelings clear. Kaelen unrolled a map across the table. It showed the western border of North Haven, where the mountains gave way to plains. "We have a problem. Bandits have been raiding villages along the western border. They are using Rivenwood refugees as hostages. Last week they took 47 people. The week before, 32. They are getting bolder." The generals leaned forward, studying the map. Stone tapped a finger on a cluster of marks indicating known bandit camps. "Standard sweep and clear. 500 cavalry. Hit the camps hard and fast. Rescue the hostages and hang the bandits." The other generals nodded. It was a reasonable plan. It was also wrong. Seraphina spoke for the first time. "That will get the hostages killed." Every eye turned to her. Stone's jaw tightened. The wolf stirred, interested to see how she would handle the challenge. "Explain," Kaelen said. "Bandits do not keep hostages in their main camps. Too risky. If you hit the camps with cavalry, the bandits will scatter to their secondary positions and execute the hostages before you can find them. You will win the battle and lose the people you are trying to save." Torvin leaned back in his chair, his skepticism clear. "And what would you suggest, Lady Seraphina, since you seem to know so much about bandit tactics?" His tone made it clear what he thought of her suggestions. Seraphina met his eyes without flinching. The wolf approved. "Small teams, 10 to 15 people each, disguised as refugees. Infiltrate the camps over 3 or 4 days. Locate the hostages. Coordinate a simultaneous strike at dawn when the guards are tired. Extract the hostages before the bandits can react." "That is absurd," Torvin said. "It would take weeks to organize. We do not have people trained for that kind of work." Another general leaned forward. Reardon, commander of the 3rd. 28 years old, quick-witted, one of the few who thought before speaking. "Wait, let her finish. The plan has merit." Torvin shot him a glare. "You cannot be serious." "I am always serious when lives are at stake. 500 cavalry riding west will be spotted before they are halfway there. Bandits have scouts same as we do. They will see us coming, execute the hostages, and fade into the hills. We will arrive to find corpses and empty camps. I have seen it happen 3 times in the past 2 years. Stone nodded slowly. "The boy has a point." "The boy is 28, Reardon said dryly. "But yes, I have a point." Seraphina looked at Reardon with something approaching respect. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet. I want to hear the rest of it. How do you coordinate 50 people across multiple camps with no way to communicate?" "Signal fires. We establish a sight line from the camps to a ridge 3 miles north. At dawn, when visibility is good, 1 fire means proceed. 2 fires means abort. Simple, reliable. And if the weather turns, if fog rolls in, then we abort. Better to wait for another opportunity than to rush in blind." Torvin was not convinced. "These are Rivenwood people you want to send in, our enemies. How do we know they will not simply join the bandits, or worse, feed them information about our movements? Because the hostages are their people too. Rivenwood refugees, their neighbors, their families. You think they want revenge against North Haven? Of course they do, but they want their loved ones back more. I will personally vet every volunteer. Anyone I have doubts about stays behind." "And we are supposed to trust your judgment on this?" "No. You are supposed to trust the king's judgment. He hired me. If you have a problem with that, take it up with him." The room fell silent. Every eye turned to Kaelen. The wolf watched through his eyes, waiting to see if anyone would challenge his authority. He let the silence stretch, watching Torvin's face redden. Finally, he spoke. "Commander Torvin, how many hostage rescues have you led?" "None, sire. That is not my specialty." "And Commander Reardon?" "2, Your Majesty. 1 success. 1 failure where the hostages died before we could extract them." "And Lady Seraphina?" She did not hesitate. 7, all successful. 3 during the war, 4 before, when bandit raids threatened Rivenwood's southern border. Kaelen nodded. "So the person with the most experience in this specific type of operation is telling us that the conventional approach will fail, and some of us want to ignore that advice because we do not like who it comes from." He let that sink in. "I did not hire Lady Seraphina to make us comfortable. I hired her to keep us honest. And right now, she is telling us an uncomfortable truth. We can accept it, or we can watch 47 people die because our pride was more important than their lives. Torvin looked like he wanted to argue. Then he glanced at Kaelen's face, saw something there that made him think better of it. The wolf was close to the surface, too close. "As you command, Your Majesty." Kaelen looked around the table. He saw doubt on every face except Stone's. Stone was carefully neutral, which meant he thought the plan had merit but did not want to say so yet. "How long would you need?" Kaelen asked Seraphina. 2 weeks to recruit and train, 3 days to infiltrate, 1 night to execute. That is 3 weeks total. Those hostages might not have 3 weeks. No, they might not. But if you send cavalry now, they definitely will not survive the day. The logic was sound. The plan was risky, but so was every military operation worth doing. Kaelen made his decision. "Do it. But I am assigning Commander Stone to oversee. Not because I do not trust you. Because my people need to see Rivenwood and North Haven working together. It builds trust." Seraphina looked at Stone, assessing. Stone looked back with the calm expression of a man who had seen everything twice. "I can work with that," she said. "Then we are agreed. Dismissed." The generals filed out, muttering to each other in low voices. Torvin shot Seraphina a look that promised future conflict. Stone lingered after the others left. "You have a talent for making friends," he said to Seraphina. "I was not hired to make friends." "No, you were hired to tell the king the truth, but it would not hurt to be polite about it occasionally." "I will consider that." Stone looked at Kaelen with an expression that said, "We are going to talk about this later," then left. Seraphina started to follow. "Wait." She stopped, one hand on the door, did not turn around. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not making it easy, for challenging me, for being exactly what I hoped you would be." She looked over his shoulder. Her expression was complicated. The wolf inside him perked up at her scent. Still unbonded, still alone, still perfect, still... "I am not doing this for you. I am doing it because those hostages are my people, Rivenwood people, and I will not leave them to die just to spite you." "I know, that is why it means something." She left without responding. Kaelen sat alone in the empty council chamber and felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. It was a dangerous feeling. Hope led to expectations. Expectations led to disappointment. He had learned that lesson too many times to count, but still. For the first time since Edmund died, he felt like maybe, possibly, he was doing something right. The wolf settled into contentment. It liked her, wanted her close, wanted to protect her and challenge her in equal measure. For once, Kaelen did not fight it. Maybe Edmund was right. Maybe the wolf could be tamed, but only by someone who did not fear it. And Seraphina Ashwood feared nothing. That night, Kaelen stood on the battlements overlooking the city. The lights of 10,000 homes glittered below like fallen stars. His kingdom, his responsibility, his burden. Stone found him there an hour past midnight. "Could not sleep?" "The wolf does not sleep, neither do I." 5 years, Stone said quietly. 5 years without shifting. That is longer than any alpha I have ever heard of. Most would have gone feral by now. Most do not have your nagging to keep them honest. Stone smiled slightly. "Someone has to. You certainly will not do it yourself." They stood in companionable silence. 15 years of friendship. 15 years of Stone watching Kaelen fight battles both external and internal. 15 years of loyalty that had never wavered. "She is dangerous," Stone said finally. "I know. Not just to you. To herself. I saw her moving during that council meeting. She is injured worse than she lets on. The way she favors her right side, the way she shifted her weight when she stood, that is not a simple wound. That is something serious." "I know that too." "And you are going to let her lead this mission anyway." "She is not leading it. You are." Semantics. "She will be out there, in danger, and you will sit here and worry like some lovesick fool." Kaelen turned to look at his friend. "I am not lovesick." "No, but you are interested. The wolf is interested, and that makes you dangerous, both of you." "She hates me." "For now. But hate is not the opposite of love. Indifference is, and that woman is anything but indifferent to you." Kaelen looked back at the city, thought about Seraphina, about the way she had challenged him, refused him, accepted his offer on her own terms. "What am I supposed to do, Stone? Ignore it? Pretend I do not feel this pull?" "No, but be smart about it. She is human. You are alpha. That gap cannot be bridged easily. Maybe not at all." "Edmund was human. His wife was human. They built a kingdom together." "And you killed him. Do not forget that. She certainly has not." The words hit like a physical blow. Kaelen closed his eyes against the pain of it. "I know, I think about it every day." "Good. That means you still have a conscience. Hold on to that. The wolf does not have one. If you let it take over, you will lose everything that makes you human, including her." Stone left him there, alone with his thoughts and the wolf that never slept. Kaelen looked at the stars and wondered if Edmund was watching. Wondered if the old king regretted his dying words. Wondered if he had known what he was asking when he told Kaelen to treat his daughter well. The wolf stirred. It did not wonder. It did not regret. It simply wanted. And what it wanted was Seraphina Ashwood. Kaelen leaned against the cold stone and made himself a promise. He would not let the wolf win. Not this time. Not with her. She deserved better than a monster. Even if that monster was learning, slowly and painfully, how to be a man again. 3 weeks after Seraphina became chief military advisor, the hostage rescue mission succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. 5 teams of 10, all Rivenwood volunteers personally vetted by Seraphina, infiltrated the bandit camps disguised as refugees. They moved with the exhausted shuffle of people who had lost everything. The bandits took them in without suspicion. Why would they suspect? These were just more bodies to ransom, more leverage to extract gold from North Haven's coffers. For 3 days, the teams gathered intelligence. They mapped the camps, identified the guards, located where the hostages were kept. They scratched signals in the dirt with sticks, coughed in patterns, left stones arranged in ways that looked random but carried meaning. Stone watched from the ridge 3 miles north with a spyglass, cataloging every signal, building a complete picture of the bandit operation. On the 4th morning, at first light, Seraphina's team lit one fire. The signal was clear: execute. 50 people moved as one across 5 separate camps. The bandits never knew what hit them. Most died in their sleep. Those who woke found knives at their throats before they could cry out. The hostages were extracted with minimal resistance. By the time the sun cleared the horizon, all 47 people were free and the bandit camps were burning. Kaelen rode out with 100 cavalry to provide rear guard for the extraction. He found the teams regrouping at the rally point, exhausted but triumphant. Stone was counting heads, checking for injuries, coordinating the march back to North Haven. 47 hostages recovered, Stone reported. 3 of our people wounded, none seriously. Casualties on the other side? 63 bandits dead, we took no prisoners. Kaelen nodded. It was brutal math but necessary. Bandits who survived would simply regroup and continue raiding. This had to be final. "Where is Lady Seraphina?" Stone's expression flickered. "Just for a moment, just enough." "Being treated by the field surgeon." Kaelen found her sitting on a log while a young man with a medic's bag worked on a deep gash across her ribs. She had her shirt pulled up, exposing the wound and the mass of bruises that covered her torso. Old injuries, new injuries, a map of violence written on skin. She saw him approach and immediately tried to stand. Her legs buckled. The medic caught her arm. "Stay still," the medic said firmly. "This needs stitching or it will not close properly." "I am fine." "You are bleeding through your bandages. That is the opposite of fine." Kaelen knelt beside the log, his eyes level with hers, close enough to see the exhaustion she was trying to hide, close enough to smell blood and smoke and the particular scent of someone who had pushed themselves too far. The wolf inside him growled protectively. She was packed now, whether she knew it or not, whether she wanted to be or not. "Report," he said quietly. "Mission successful. All objectives achieved. Minimal casualties." "And you?" "Also minimal casualties. That gash is 6 inches long." "I have had worse. That is not comforting." She met his eyes. For a moment, the mask slipped. He saw the pain she was hiding, the exhaustion, the cost of leadership that no one else was allowed to see. "I did what needed to be done." "I know, and you did it brilliantly, but you are also human, and humans need to rest occasionally." The medic finished the last stitch and tied it off. Seraphina hissed through her teeth but did not pull away. "There," the medic said. "Try not to tear these open for at least a week. No combat, no heavy lifting, no sudden movements." "Understood." She stood, more carefully this time. Kaelen stood with her, close enough to catch her if she fell again. She noticed but said nothing. The ride back to North Haven took 6 hours. Seraphina rode in silence, her posture stiff, clearly in pain but refusing to show it. Kaelen rode beside her, not speaking, just present. The wolf watched her through his eyes. Protective, possessive. He forced those instincts down. When they reached the city gates, a crowd had gathered. Word had spread fast. The hostages' families pushed forward, crying, shouting names, searching for loved ones. The reunion was chaos and joy and relief all mixed together. Kaelen dismounted and helped Seraphina down from her horse. She was swaying on her feet now, the adrenaline wearing off, the pain catching up.
"You need to see Mara," he said. "I need to debrief. The debriefing can wait." "Kaelen?"
It was the first time she had used his name without his title. He noticed. She noticed that he noticed. Something unspoken passed between them.
"Please," he said.
She nodded. Let him guide her toward the medical wing. Let herself lean on him slightly when the ground seemed to shift under her feet. Mara took one look at her and immediately started preparing more surgical tools.
"Out," she told Kaelen. "I would like to stay. She needs privacy. Out."
Kaelen looked at Seraphina. She was already sitting on the examination table, her armor half removed, too exhausted to argue. "Go," she said quietly. "I will be fine." He went. But he did not go far. He sat outside the medical wing, his back against the stone wall, and listened to the muffled sounds of treatment. When Seraphina cried out, he closed his eyes and forced himself to stay seated. The wolf snarled, wanting to break down the door, wanting to protect. He wrestled it into submission. She would not want him to see her vulnerable. He could give her that dignity at least. Stone found him there an hour later.
"The council wants a full report."
"They can wait."
"It has been an hour."
"Then they can wait another hour."
Stone sat beside him on the floor, their shoulders nearly touching.
"You care for her." It was not a question. Kaelen did not bother denying it.
"Yes."
"Does she know?" "I think she suspects, but I have not told her."
"Why not?"
"Because she is still grieving her father. Because I am the man who killed him. Because I am an alpha who can barely control the wolf inside me, and she deserves better than a monster who might go feral at any moment." Stone was quiet for a long moment. "You know what I see when I look at you two together?"
"What?"
"I see two people who are equally broken, trying to convince themselves that they are fine alone. And I think you are both wrong." Before Kaelen could respond, Mara emerged from the medical wing. Her face was grave. "She will live, but she needs at least 4 weeks to recover. The wound to her ribs is deep. There is also old damage from the final battle at Rivenwood, internal scarring. If she does not rest properly, the complications could kill her."
"Does she know?"
"I told her. She said she would rest after updating you on the mission."
"No, she rests now.
I will get the full report from Stone. Mara, is there anything else I should know?"
Mara hesitated.
"The internal damage. It has made her infertile. She cannot bear children. I told her today. She did not take it well." The wolf inside him went very still. Not with disappointment, with recognition. They were the same, he and Seraphina. Both rendered sterile by violence, his from too many shifts damaging his body, hers from battle wounds, both broken in the same fundamental way. "Thank you for telling me. I will not mention it to her unless she brings it up first." Mara nodded and left. Kaelen stood, walked to the council chamber, and gave them the briefest possible report. Mission success, 47 rescued, details to follow, meeting adjourned. Then he went to his study and sat alone with the realization that the woman he was falling for could never give him the one thing kingdoms demanded from their rulers, heirs. The wolf did not care. It wanted her anyway, needed her, would claim her if given half a chance. For once, Kaelen and the wolf were in complete agreement. The next month passed in a strange sort of domesticity. Seraphina recovered in the palace's east wing. Kaelen visited daily, bringing books from the library when he learned she liked to read. Military histories mostly, but also poetry she would never admit to enjoying. He brought reports that needed her input, spreading maps across her bed so they could discuss strategy. He brought news from the city, updates on the freed hostages, gossip from the council meetings. He brought himself. And slowly, carefully, she began to let him in. "Why do you do this?" she asked one evening, a week into her recovery. "You are a king. You have a kingdom to run. Why waste time sitting with me?" Kaelen looked up from the book he had been reading aloud, some ancient text about siege warfare that they had been debating. "Because I want to." "That is not an answer." "It is the only answer that matters." She studied him. He looked tired, the kind of tired that came from too many years of too much responsibility. "Do you ever sleep?" "Occasionally." "Liar." He smiled. "I sleep better than I used to, before you came." "How is that possible? I have done nothing but cause you trouble."
You have caused me to think, to question my decisions, to be better than I was. That is not trouble. That is a gift." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning neither was quite ready to name. Seraphina's sisters came to visit, Alara first, bringing flowers and chatter about the city. "He is in love with you," Alara said suddenly. Seraphina nearly choked on her tea. "What?" "King Kaelen, it is obvious. He visits twice daily, personally oversees your treatment. That is not just guilt." "You are imagining things." "Am I? I have eyes, sister. And I see the way he looks at you, like you are the only real thing in his world." Seraphina had no answer to that. Mira came next, older and more pragmatic. "How are you really?" she asked after the pleasantries were done. "Healing. I meant emotionally." Seraphina looked at her sister, really looked, saw the concern beneath the composure. "I do not know. Everything I thought I knew has been turned upside down. The man who killed our father is also the man who treats me with respect, who listens when I speak, who looks at me like I am not broken." "Are you broken?" "Mara says I cannot have children. The injuries from the final battle, so yes, I am broken." Mira took her hand. "You are not broken. You are injured. There is a difference. And children are not the only measure of a life well lived. Try telling that to a kingdom that expects heirs. Try telling that to a king who cares more about you than about heirs." After her sisters left, Seraphina lay in bed and thought about Kaelen, about the way he looked at her, about the way she had started looking forward to his visits, about the warmth that spread through her chest when he smiled. It terrified her. 5 weeks after the hostage rescue, Seraphina was finally cleared by Mara to resume light duties. She immediately threw herself into work. There was always work, reports to read, strategies to plan, a kingdom to help run. Kaelen found her in the war room late one night, surrounded by maps and reports, a lamp burning low beside her. "You should be resting." "I have rested enough." Mara said light duties. "This looks like heavy duties." "I am fine." He walked over, looked at what she was working on. Plans for rebuilding Rivenwood, detailed architectural drawings, supply requisitions, labor estimates. "You are planning to rebuild." "Someone has to. My people have been living in refugee camps for 7 months. They need homes. They need a future. I can help with that. North Haven has resources, skilled laborers, gold." "Why would you do that?" "Rivenwood fought against you. Because the war is over. Because your people are suffering. Because—" He stopped. "Because what?" "Because you care about them, and I care about you. So by extension, I care about them too." The confession hung between them. Seraphina set down her pen. "Kaelen." "I know. You are not ready to hear this. Maybe you never will be. But I cannot keep pretending I do not feel it. You make me want to be better. You make me feel human again. And I am falling in love with you despite every logical reason not to." She stood, faced him across the table covered in maps of her dead kingdom. "You killed my father." "I know. I should hate you." "You do hate me." "Yes, I do. But I also—" She closed her eyes. "I also feel something else. Something I do not want to feel. Something that makes me furious and confused and terrified all at once." "What do you feel?" She opened her eyes, looked at him. In the lamplight, his eyes had an amber glow. The wolf watching her, wanting her. "I feel like maybe, possibly, I could learn to forgive you. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. And that terrifies me more than anything else you have ever done." He walked around the table, stood close enough that she could feel his body heat, could smell pine and leather, and something wild underneath. "I do not deserve your forgiveness." "No, you do not. But you are trying to earn it anyway, every day, with every decision. And I hate that I notice. I hate that it matters. What do you want from me, Seraphina?" "I want you to give me time. I want you to stop being so infuriatingly patient and understanding. I want you to be the monster I can hate without complication. But you are not. You are just a man trying to be better, and that makes everything harder." He reached out slowly, giving her time to step back if she wanted. She did not step back. He cupped her face in his hand, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone. "I will give you all the time you need, a year, 10 years, forever. I am not going anywhere." She leaned into his touch despite herself. "You say that now." "I mean it. You are worth waiting for." She pulled back, stepped away, put the table between them again. "Ask me in a year." "What?" "If you still feel this way in a year. If we still, just ask me in a year. When Rivenwood is rebuilt, when I have had time to process everything, when I know whether what I feel is real or just gratitude for being treated like a person again." "A year. Yes. Can you wait that long?" The wolf inside him howled its frustration, wanted to claim her now, wanted to mark her as his and damn the consequences. Kaelen forced it down. Yes, I can wait, but I have one condition of my own. What? Let me help rebuild Rivenwood. Let us do it together, as partners, so you can see what it would be like before you make your decision. She considered, nodded slowly. Partners, nothing more, not yet. Not yet. The attack came without warning 3 months later. 15 Rivenwood loyalists, remnants of the old regime who refused to accept the peace, launched a coordinated assault on a North Haven supply convoy. They killed 6 soldiers and stole 2 wagons of grain. Then they vanished into the forests, leaving only corpses and a message carved into a tree. Rivenwood will never kneel. Kaelen received the report in his study. Stone delivered it personally, his face grim. They are organized, well-armed. This was not random bandits. This was a military operation. Where did they go? Into the Thornwood. We tracked them 5 miles before losing the trail. Kaelen stood, started buckling on his armor. What are you doing? Stone asked. Going after them. You cannot, not alone. I am not asking for permission. Then I am not asking you to listen. I am telling you. If you go into that forest and shift, you know what will happen. You have not shifted in 5 years. Your control is fragile. One slip and you go feral. Kaelen's hands stilled on the buckles. People died. My people. I cannot just let that go. So send troops. Send me. Send Reardon. Send anyone except yourself. They attacked because they think I am weak. Because I have been spending time rebuilding instead of showing strength. I need to respond personally or this will never end. Stone stepped closer. Or you will respond, lose control, and become the monster they think you are, which will prove them right. I have to do something. Then do it smart. Take a team. Take me. Take Reardon. Hunt them down together. But do not shift unless there is absolutely no other choice. Kaelen wanted to promise. Wanted to believe he could control it. But he had learned long ago not to make promises he might not be able to keep. I will try. That is not a promise. It is the best I can give you. Stone left to gather the team. Kaelen finished with his armor and went to find Seraphina. He needed to see her face before he left, in case he did not come back the same. She was in the library reading. She looked better, stronger. The color was back in her face. Kaelen, I thought you had council meetings this afternoon. I do, later. Right now I need to handle something else. She heard the tone in his voice, set down her book. What happened? He told her, watched her face tighten with each detail. You are going after them. Yes, I am coming with you. Absolutely not, you are still recovering. I am well enough to ride, and these are my people, former Rivenwood soldiers. I know how they think, how they move. I can help. Seraphina? Do not argue with me on this. You made me your military advisor, so let me advise. Going in blind against soldiers who know that terrain better than you do is suicide. You need me. She was right. She was also still injured. The logical choice was to leave her behind. The selfish choice was to keep her close where he could protect her. Logic won, barely. Fine, but you stay back from any combat. You observe and advise only. If fighting starts, you retreat. Agreed? Agreed. I mean it. If you get yourself killed trying to prove something, I will never forgive you. She smiled slightly. Same to you, especially the shifting part. Stone told me about your condition. Of course he did. They assembled the team in the courtyard. Stone, Reardon, 8 hunters with longbows and tracking skills. Seraphina, moving stiffly but determined. Kaelen gave the briefing, laid out the plan, made it clear that the goal was capture, not kill. They needed intelligence, needed to know if this was an isolated group or part of a larger resistance. They rode out as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. 6 hours of daylight left. Maybe less once they were in the forest canopy. The thornwood was old growth, dense and dark even in full day. The trees grew close together, their branches intertwining overhead to block out the sky. The tracking team found the trail easily enough, 15 horses leaving clear prints in the soft forest floor. They followed for 2 hours. The trail led deeper into the forest, away from roads and settlements. Intentional. These were soldiers who knew how to disappear. Then the trail split. 3 different directions. They knew they would be followed, Seraphina said quietly. She was studying the ground, her eyes sharp despite the pain Kaelen knew she was in. This is a deliberate split. One group has the supplies, the other 2 are decoys. How do we know which is which? She knelt, examining the tracks more closely, ran her fingers along the edge of a hoof print. This one. She pointed to the trail heading northeast. Deeper prints, heavier loads. The wagons went this way. Are you certain? Reasonably, but there is only one way to be sure. Send small teams down each path. Whoever finds the wagons signals the others. Kaelen divided the team. Stone took 4 men down the northwest trail. Reardon took 3 down the southeast. Kaelen, Seraphina, and the last hunter took the northeast. They followed the trail for another hour. The forest grew darker, colder. The horses were nervous, ears twitching at sounds only they could hear. Then they found the camp. It was well hidden in a natural clearing surrounded by thick brush. 2 wagons sat in the center. 15 men, just as the report had said. But they were not resting. They were preparing, sharpening weapons, checking armor, getting ready for something.
This was a trap, Seraphina breathed. They wanted you to follow them.
Kaelen realized she was right. The ambush became clear. They would wait until Kaelen's team split up, then hit each group separately, divide and conquer. We need to signal the others, get everyone regrouped before... An arrow hissed past Kaelen's ear, missed by inches. "Contact!" the hunter yelled. The forest exploded with movement. Not just 15 men, 30, 40. They had been waiting in the trees, hidden in the shadows. More loyalists than intelligence had suggested. Kaelen drew his sword, heard Seraphina curse behind him, saw the hunter take an arrow to the shoulder and go down. The loyalists charged. Kaelen met them head-on. Steel rang against steel. He fought with the controlled efficiency of decades of practice, but there were too many. For every man he cut down, 2 more appeared. A blade slashed across his thigh. Another caught his shoulder. Blood ran hot down his arm. Seraphina was fighting too, despite her injuries. Using a sword she must have taken from the fallen hunter. She was slower than usual, favoring her wounded side, but still deadly. She took down 2 men in quick succession. Then one of the loyalists recognized her. "Lady Seraphina, you fight with the Butcher King?" She did not hesitate. "I fight for my people, all of them, not just the ones who want endless war." "Traitor!" The loyalist lunged at her. Kaelen intercepted, running the man through, but more were coming, too many. His vision started to narrow. The old instinct rose in his chest, demanding release. Shift, shift and end this. Shift and survive. He fought it, tried to hold on to his humanity, but blood was everywhere, the smell of it, the taste of it in the air. His men were dying. Seraphina was in danger. The world turned red. He felt his body begin to change, bones shifting, muscles reforming. The pain was excruciating, like being torn apart and rebuilt all at once. He tried to stop it, tried to pull back. Too late. The wolf took over. Cho. Seraphina saw Kaelen drop his sword, saw his body convulse, heard the sickening crack of bones breaking and reforming. Then the massive black wolf stood where the man had been. It was bigger than any natural wolf, easily 3 times the size. Its eyes glowed amber in the forest gloom. Its teeth were as long as her fingers. This was not an animal. This was a predator designed by nature to kill. The wolf launched itself at the nearest loyalist, ripped his throat out before the man could scream, moved to the next, and the next. It was a blur of black fur and red blood and savage violence. The loyalists broke, ran. The wolf chased them, brought them down one by one. Seraphina watched in horror as Kaelen, the man who brought her books and sat by her bedside, became a living weapon that killed without mercy or hesitation. Then the wolf turned toward her, its amber eyes fixed on her face. She saw no recognition there, no humanity, just hunger and rage and the instinct to hunt. She did not run, did not reach for her sword, just stood there, bleeding from a dozen small cuts, exhausted and in pain, and waited. The wolf stalked toward her, slow, deliberate. She could smell its breath, hot and metallic, could see the blood on its muzzle, could hear the low growl building in its chest. "Kaelen," she said softly, "it is me, come back." The wolf did not slow. "I know you are in there. I know you think you are a monster, but you are not. You are the man who is helping me rebuild my kingdom, who argues with me about strategy for 3 hours straight, who looks at me like I am not broken." The wolf was 5 feet away now, close enough to lunge, close enough to kill. "You are the man I am beginning to trust, the man I am beginning to—" She stopped, could not say the words. "Not yet, not like this. The man I need, so please, come back to me." The wolf stopped, its head tilted slightly, confusion in those amber eyes. "That is right. You remember. Somewhere in there you remember me." She took a step forward. The wolf growled, a warning. She took another step, held out her hand. I am not afraid of you. I should be, but I am not, because I know you, and you would never hurt me, not on purpose. Another step. Her hand was inches from its muzzle now. Come back, Kaelen, please. I need you to come back. The wolf's eyes began to change. The amber faded. Human awareness crept back in. The growl became a whimper. Then the change reversed. The wolf collapsed, shifting back to human form. Kaelen lay naked and shaking on the forest floor, covered in blood that was not all his own. Seraphina dropped to her knees beside him, pulled off her cloak and covered him. He was trembling violently, his teeth chattering despite the summer heat. I almost killed you, he whispered. But you did not. You came back. I could not control it. I tried so hard. I know, I saw. Stone and Reardon arrived with the rest of the team. They had heard the fighting, came as fast as they could. They stopped short at the scene. Dead loyalists scattered across the clearing, blood everywhere. Kaelen in human form, covered by Seraphina's cloak, looking more broken than any of them had ever seen him. Stone approached slowly, knelt beside his king. How bad? I lost control, completely. If Seraphina had not... But she did. That is what matters. Reardon was already securing the area, checking the survivors, counting the dead. His voice came back across the clearing. 32 loyalists dead. We lost one, the hunter who was with you. Kaelen closed his eyes. Another death on his conscience. Another man lost because he could not control the beast inside him. Seraphina's hand found his, squeezed. He died fighting beside his king. There is honor in that. He died because I failed. No. He died because our enemies forced our hand. Do not take their guilt onto yourself. You carry enough already. They made camp in the clearing, built fires to ward off the night chill. Kaelen dressed slowly, his hands still shaking. He could not meet anyone's eyes. The shame was too great. That night, when the others slept, Seraphina found him sitting by the fire, staring into the flames. May I join you? He nodded. She sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. I'm sorry you had to see that. I am not. He looked at her, surprised. You needed help. I helped. That is what partners do. Partners. Is that not what we are? Kaelen studied her face in the firelight, saw no fear there, no disgust, just acceptance. I do not deserve you. Probably not, but you have me anyway, at least for now. For now? She smiled slightly. You asked me to give you a year. It has been 4 months. 8 more to go. We will see where we stand then. Despite everything, he almost laughed. They sat in silence, watching the fire, and for the first time since the shift, Kaelen felt almost human again. The wolf inside him had tasted blood and violence and had been pulled back from the brink by a human woman's voice, by her trust, by her refusal to run. Maybe Edmund was right. Maybe the wolf could be tamed, but only by someone who did not fear it. And Seraphina Ashwood, covered in blood and exhausted beyond measure, sitting beside a monster who had almost killed her, feared nothing. Bah! They returned to North Haven 3 days later. The Loyalists were dead or scattered. The supplies were recovered. The mission was technically a success, but Kaelen felt hollowed out, emptied. The memory of losing control haunted him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Seraphina standing before the wolf, unafraid, offering her hand. She should have run. She should have let him chase her down like the animal he had become. Instead, she had brought him back. The council met to hear the report. Kaelen kept it brief, delivered the facts without emotion. 32 hostiles eliminated, 1 friendly casualty, supplies recovered, threat neutralized for now. He did not mention the shift, did not describe the loss of control. Some things were too dangerous to share. After the meeting, Seraphina cornered him in the hallway. Walk with me. I have work to do. The work can wait. Walk with me. She led him to the gardens, the same path they had walked during her recovery. The evening air was cool, scented with late summer flowers. They walked in silence for a long time. You are avoiding me, she said finally. I am giving you space. I do not want space, I want honesty. He stopped walking, turned to face her. I almost killed you, but you did not. That is not the point. The fact that I came that close. Kaelen. She stepped closer, put her hand on his chest, right over his heart. He could feel it racing beneath her palm. I have spent my entire life around soldiers. I know what battle does to men. I know what trauma looks like. What you have is not weakness. It is a wound, and wounds can heal. Not this one. Every time I shift, I lose more of myself. Eventually, I will shift and not come back at all. Then do not shift. What if I have no choice? What if there is another attack, another crisis that requires— Then we find another way. Together. That is what I am trying to tell you. You do not have to carry this alone anymore. Her hand was still on his chest, her eyes locked on his. Standing this close, he could smell the herbs from her healing salves, the soap she used, the particular scent that was just her. The wolf purred contentedly. She was here. She was close. She was his. 8 more months, he said. The words came out rough, unpracticed. 8 more months until the year is up. Can you wait that long? Can you? I have waited 5 years to feel human again. I can wait 8 more months. She smiled, pulled her hand back. Good, because I am not ready yet, but I am getting there. What changed? You came back. In the forest. You could have stayed wolf, could have run, could have become the monster permanently. But you heard my voice and you came back. That matters. They stood in the garden as the sun set, not quite touching but not quite apart either. 8 more months. Kaelen could wait. The wolf could wait. For her, they would wait forever. Over the next 4 months, Kaelen and Seraphina rebuilt Rivenwood together. It started with clearing rubble. North Haven sent 200 laborers. Rivenwood refugees provided another 100. They worked side by side, former enemies united by the simple goal of creating something instead of destroying it. Kaelen was there every day, not as a king issuing orders from a throne, but as a man with calloused hands and dust in his hair. He lifted timber, hauled stone, worked until his muscles ached and sweat ran down his back. The wolf inside him enjoyed the physical labor. It quieted the restless energy that always simmered beneath his skin. Seraphina worked beside him, directing construction, solving problems, making 1,000 small decisions that would shape the new city. She had a vision for Rivenwood, not a replica of what was lost, but something better. Wider streets for better defense, a central square for gatherings, houses designed to withstand siege warfare. They argued constantly about architecture, about resource allocation, about whether the market should be in the North Quarter or the South. The arguments were fierce and loud and utterly devoid of malice. She challenged every decision he made. He questioned every plan she proposed. And somehow, through all the arguing, they created something neither could have built alone. Stone watched them with barely concealed amusement. "You two fight like an old married couple," he said one afternoon, after witnessing a particularly heated debate about load-bearing walls. "We are not married," Seraphina said. "Not yet," Stone replied, then walked away before either could respond. Reardon was less subtle. He found Kaelen in the training yard one morning, working through sword forms to clear his head. "So, you and Lady Seraphina. What about us? When are you going to make it official?" "Make what official?" "Stop being dense. You love her. She loves you. Everyone can see it. So when are you actually going to do something about it?" Kaelen lowered his sword. "It is complicated. Love usually is, but that is not an excuse for cowardice." "Cowardice? You faced down armies. You shifted into a wolf and killed 30 men in minutes. But you are terrified of telling one woman how you feel. Yes, cowardice." He was right. Kaelen knew he was right. But knowing and doing were different things. "She asked me to wait a year. We agreed. Partners until then." "And how much longer is that?" 4 more months. 4 months is a long time to pretend you do not want to kiss her. "I am not pretending anything. I am honoring my word." "Sure you are," Reardon grinned. "But the way you look at her says otherwise." He left Kaelen alone to contemplate that uncomfortable truth. The truth was, Kaelen did want to kiss her. Wanted it so badly it kept him awake at night. Wanted to close the distance between them, taste her lips, claim her as his in every way that mattered. But he had made a promise, and he would keep it. 6 months after she became his advisor, they stood on the half-finished walls of Rivenwood and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "It is coming together," Seraphina said quietly. "Better than I hoped." "It is your vision. You should be proud." "It is our vision. I could not have done this without your resources, your laborers, your willingness to invest in a kingdom that fought against you. I did not do it for the kingdom. I did it for you." She looked at him. He looked back, not hiding anything. The wolf watched through his eyes, patient, possessive, waiting. 4 more months, she said. "I know. Do you still want this? Want me? Every day, every moment, yes. Even knowing I cannot give you children, cannot give you heirs? I told you before, I cannot have children either. The shifting damaged me the same way battle damaged you. We are matched in our brokenness. We could adopt." The words hung between them, heavy with implication. "You have thought about this," he said. I have thought about little else. War orphans, children who lost everything. We could give them a home, a family, a future. That sounds like a plan for the long term. It is. Are you saying what I think you are saying? She turned to face him fully. In the dying light, her eyes were dark and serious. I am saying that 4 months suddenly feels like a very long time to wait. His heart stuttered. The wolf surged forward, eager. He forced it back. What are you asking me, Seraphina? I am asking if you still want to marry me, not because I am ready to say yes, but because I am ready to start seriously considering it. I want to marry you. I have wanted it since the day you slapped me and refused to be afraid, but only if you are certain. Only if you can look at me and see a partner, not the man who killed your father. I see both. I think I always will. But I am learning that people can be more than one thing. You are the man who killed my father. You are also the man who is helping me rebuild his kingdom. Both things are true. Both things matter. I can live with that. Good. Because I am not asking you to propose tonight. I am just saying, when the year is up, if you ask me then. My answer will probably be yes. Probably? I am not making promises I cannot keep. A lot can happen in 4 months. It can, but I will still be here, still wanting you, still waiting. She smiled. It was the first time he had seen her smile without reserve, without guard, just pure happiness. I know, that is what scares me most. You are too good at waiting. I have had a lot of practice. They stood together on the wall, watching the sun sink below the horizon. And Kaelen felt something settle in his chest, something that felt almost like peace. 4 more months. He could wait. But fate had other plans. 2 weeks later, a rider approached the palace gates at full gallop, carrying news that would change everything. The Western Coalition had decided to test North Haven's strength, and they were bringing an army. The rider was covered in road dust, his horse lathered and blowing. He had ridden hard for 3 days straight, changing mounts at every way station. The message he carried was sealed with red wax bearing the mark of the Western Coalition. Kaelen read it in his study with Stone standing at his shoulder. Seraphina entered halfway through, summoned by a servant who knew she would want to hear this. The letter was blunt. The Western Coalition, a loose alliance of 3 smaller kingdoms that bordered North Haven to the west, had decided that Kaelen's recent focus on peace made him weak. They were assembling an army, 25,000 troops. They would march within the week. Their demand was simple: surrender North Haven's western territories or face total war. Kaelen set down the letter, looked at Stone, at Seraphina. They think we are vulnerable. We are vulnerable, Stone said. We have 12,000 troops at full muster, half that many if we only count seasoned fighters. The rest are green recruits who have never seen real combat. They are betting that internal division will make us easy prey, Seraphina added. Rivenwood refugees, loyalist attacks, a king who spends more time rebuilding than preparing for war. From the outside, it looks like weakness. Is it? She met his eyes. No, it is growth, but they do not know that yet. Kaelen stood, walked to the window. Outside, the city went about its evening business. People laughing in taverns, merchants closing their shops, children playing in the streets. All of it would burn if the coalition got past the walls. We need to call a war council, now! Within the hour, the council chamber was full. Generals, advisors, commanders. Torvin sat near the far end, his expression carefully neutral. Reardon leaned forward, already thinking through scenarios. Stone stood by Kaelen's right hand, solid as always. Seraphina took her place at Kaelen's left, the seat of honor. No one questioned it anymore. Kaelen laid out the situation without embellishment. 25,000 troops marching toward them. Maybe 10 days until contact. North Haven's forces outnumbered 2-1. We cannot win a direct engagement, Torvin said immediately. Our only option is to sue for peace. Give them the western territories. Regroup. Try to retake the land later when we are stronger. That is one option, Kaelen said, but not the only one. What else is there? We do not have the numbers to meet them in open battle. Seraphina spoke. Her voice was calm, measured, the voice of someone who had fought and won against worse odds. We do not meet them in open battle. We make them come to us, siege defense, force them to bleed for every foot of ground. They have 25,000 troops, Torvin protested. They can simply surround us and starve us out. Only if we let them establish supply lines. Only if we give them time to dig in. She pulled the map closer, pointing to key positions. The coalition is 3 separate armies from 3 separate kingdoms. They have to coordinate. That takes time. That creates vulnerabilities. Reardon was nodding. Hit the supply lines, keep them off balance, make it cost them more than they are willing to pay. Exactly. They are here for territory, not glory. If we make it expensive enough, they will reconsider. Another general spoke up, Marcus, who commanded the artillery. What about their siege weapons? Intelligence says they are bringing trebuchets, maybe a dozen. We cannot withstand that kind of bombardment indefinitely. Seraphina traced a line on the map. Then we do not let them build them. Look here. The coalition will camp in the valleys west and south of the city. Standard positioning for a siege. But to construct effective siege engines, they need timber. Lots of it. The nearest forest is 8 miles west. That means supply trains moving between the forest and their camps. Vulnerable supply trains. You want to raid their lumber operations, Stone said slowly. More than raid. Destroy. Burn the forest if we have to. Make it impossible for them to build siege engines close enough to be effective. Without those, they are left with ladders and battering rams. Our walls can handle that. Torvin leaned back, reassessing. That is actually brilliant. Risky as hell, but brilliant. Everything in war is risky, Seraphina said. The question is whether the risk is worth the potential gain. They debated for another hour, refined the plan, assigned specific responsibilities. By the time they adjourned, everyone knew their role. The coalition army appeared on the horizon 8 days later, 3 columns converging on North Haven from different directions. The western column carried the banner of Westmarch. The southern column flew the colors of Ironwood Vale. The northern column bore the wolf's head of Greystone Keep. 25,000 troops, maybe more. The numbers were hard to pin down when they were spread across 3 separate camps. Kaelen stood on the walls and watched them arrive. Stone stood beside him, Seraphina on his other side. The wolf inside him stirred at her proximity. It always did. She smelled like home now, like safety, like everything he had been missing for 15 years. They are not trying to hide their numbers, Stone observed. They want us to see, want us to be intimidated. It is working, Kaelen admitted. Look at that. That is more soldiers than I have seen in one place in 15 years. But they are spread out, Seraphina said. 3 camps, 3 different command structures. If we hit them before they can fully coordinate, we might be able to break them, or they might crush us. Yes, that is also possible. Kaelen looked at her, saw the calm certainty in her eyes, the absolute confidence that came from someone who had planned operations like this 100 times. When do your strike teams move out? Tonight, under cover of darkness. Reardon will take 50 cavalry, hit their supply depot 20 miles south, burn what he can, scatter the rest, make them worry about their logistics before the siege even begins. And if he gets caught? He will not. Reardon is good at what he does, and I trained his team myself. That night, Reardon led his cavalry out through a hidden postern gate. They wore dark clothing, carried minimal armor, moved in silence. Seraphina watched them go from the walls, her hands gripping the stone parapet hard enough that her knuckles went white. Kaelen found her there an hour later. You should rest. I cannot, not while they are out there. You trust Reardon. With my life. But that does not make waiting easier. He stood beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. They watched the darkness together. When this is over, Kaelen said quietly, when the coalition is gone and the kingdom is safe, I want to ask you something. Ask me now. No. After. I want to ask when we are not standing on a wall waiting for war, when we can think about the future without wondering if we will survive to see it. Seraphina turned to look at him. In the moonlight, his face was all sharp angles and shadows. The face of a man who had carried too much for too long. We will survive this. You cannot know that. No, but I choose to believe it anyway, because the alternative is unacceptable. He took her hand, held it, drew strength from the contact. The wolf purred. Mine, ours, pack. I do not want to lose you. Then fight like you have something to live for. Riordan's team returned before dawn. They came back whooping and covered in soot. 2 men wounded, but alive. The mission was a complete success. The coalition's southern supply depot was ash and embers. 3 weeks of food stores destroyed. A dozen wagons burned. The enemy's carefully planned logistics thrown into chaos. The coalition responded with fury. They launched a probing attack at noon, 500 troops testing North Haven's defenses. The walls held. Archers took a toll. When the attackers retreated, they left 40 bodies behind. Over the next 3 days, the pattern repeated. The coalition would attack. North Haven would defend. Casualties mounted on both sides, but the ratio favored the defenders. For every North Haven soldier who fell, 3 coalition troops died. But numbers were numbers. The coalition could afford to lose 3-1. North Haven could not. On the 4th day, the coalition changed tactics. Instead of direct assaults, they began building siege engines, trebuchets, battering rams, siege towers that would let them bypass the walls entirely. Construction took time, but they had time. They had food. They had reinforcements trickling in daily from their home territories. North Haven had walls and determination and not much else. Kaelen called another war council on the evening of the 5th day. We need to break their momentum. They are settling in for a long siege. If we let them get comfortable, we lose. What do you suggest? Stone asked. A sortie. Take the fight to them. Hit their siege engines before they are complete. Maybe take out a command tent or 2 while we are at it. Torvin shook his head. That is suicide. You want to take troops outside the walls? Where we lose our defensive advantage, we will be slaughtered. Not if we do it right, Seraphina said. Small force, fast-moving, in and out before they can mount a proper response. And who leads this suicide mission? Kaelen and Seraphina spoke at the same time. I will. They looked at each other. Kaelen saw the determination in her eyes, saw that she would not back down. We lead it together, he said finally. Co-command, like we planned Rivenwood's reconstruction. Stone made a sound that might have been a laugh or a groan. You 2 are going to get each other killed. You know that, right? Probably, Seraphina said, but we will take a lot of enemies with us. They assembled the sortie team in the courtyard an hour before dawn. 200 of North Haven's best. Stone insisted on coming. Reardon as well. The plan was simple in concept, brutal in execution. Charge out at first light. Hit the siege engines. Burn everything. Get back inside the walls before the enemy could organize a response. Kaelen checked his armor one last time, adjusted his sword belt, tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. The wolf paced inside him, eager for battle, eager to protect, eager to claim victory. Seraphina appeared at his elbow, already armored, a sword strapped to her hip. Ready? No, but we are going anyway. She smiled slightly. That is leadership. The gates opened. 200 troops poured out in a wedge formation, Kaelen at the point, Seraphina beside him. They hit the coalition camp like a hammer blow. The first siege engine went up in flames before the enemy fully understood what was happening. The second followed. Soldiers poured out of tents, grabbing weapons, trying to form defensive lines. Too slow, too disorganized. Kaelen fought with controlled efficiency. His sword found throats, hearts, the gaps in armor where steel could slip through. He did not shift, did not need to. Adrenaline and training and the wolf's strength were enough. Seraphina fought beside him, covering his left flank like they had done this together for years. Her movements were economical, precise. She had recovered fully from her injuries, was stronger than ever. They reached the 3rd siege engine. Reardon's team was already pouring oil on it, setting torches. The wood caught fast, flames leaping high into the pre-dawn darkness. Then the horns sounded. Coalition reinforcements, thousands of them, pouring out of the camps. The sortie had done its job. Now came the hard part. Back to the gates, Kaelen shouted. Fighting retreat, stay together. They pulled back in good order, shield wall holding, archers providing cover fire from the walls. Coalition troops pressed in from all sides. The fighting was savage, close quarters, no room for finesse. A coalition soldier broke through the line, swinging an axe at Seraphina's head. Kaelen intercepted, taking the blow on his shield, feeling his arm go numb from the impact. He kicked the man's knee, heard it crack, brought his sword down in a finishing stroke. Thanks, Seraphina gasped. We are even. You saved me from the wolf. I save you from an axe. That is not even close to even. They fought their way back. 50 yards, 40, 30. The gates were open, defenders providing covering fire, but coalition troops were pressing in hard, desperate to prevent the sortie team from escaping. 20 yards. A spear caught Stone in the shoulder. He stumbled. Reardon grabbed him, half carrying him toward safety. 10 yards. Then Kaelen saw the archer. High up in a siege tower that had not been destroyed, drawing back on a longbow. The arrow was pointed directly at Seraphina's back. She did not see it, too focused on the enemies in front of her. Kaelen did not think, did not hesitate. He shoved her aside, putting his body between her and the archer. The arrow took him in the chest, just below the collarbone. The impact knocked him backward. He felt the arrowhead scrape against bone, felt blood flood his mouth. "Kaelen!" Seraphina's scream seemed to come from very far away. He was on the ground. When had he fallen? The sky above was starting to lighten. Dawn. They had made it to dawn. Hands grabbed him, dragged him. The gates slammed shut behind them. He heard Seraphina shouting orders, heard the clash of steel as the coalition tested the gates, heard it all fade as darkness crept in at the edges of his vision. "Stay with me," Seraphina's voice. Close, desperate. "Do not you dare die. Do not you dare." He wanted to answer, wanted to tell her it was fine, that he had survived worse. But breathing hurt. Speaking was impossible. The darkness was warm and inviting, and he was so very tired. "I need you," she was saying, her hands on his face, her tears hot on his skin. "I need you to stay. Please, I am not ready to lose you. I am not ready." He tried to hold on, tried to fight the pull of unconsciousness, but the darkness was stronger. His last thought before everything went black was that at least she was safe. He had managed to do that much. "Bye." Kaelen woke to pain, sharp and burning in his chest. He tried to move, gasped, felt hands press him gently back down. "Easy, do not move." The arrow went deep. Mara's voice. He forced his eyes open. The healer was leaning over him, her weathered face creased with concern. "Seraphina? She is fine, thanks to you. You took the arrow that was meant for her." "The siege? Still ongoing. You have been unconscious for 2 days. The coalition is regrouping after the sortie. Your people did a lot of damage, bought us time." 2 days! He tried to sit up again, failed. His body would not cooperate. "You need to rest," Mara said firmly. "The arrow missed your lung by a finger's width. If it had gone any deeper, I could not have saved you. As it is, you will recover, but only if you rest." "I cannot. The kingdom needs—" "What the kingdom needs is a living king, not a dead hero. You have good people. Trust them to do their jobs." She was right. He hated that she was right. "Where is Seraphina?" "Commanding the defense. She has barely left the walls since you fell. Stone finally ordered her to rest 2 hours ago. She is in the room next door, asleep, I hope." Kaelen closed his eyes, tried to process. 2 days unconscious. The siege continuing without him. Seraphina leading the defense in his absence. He should feel worried. Should feel like he was failing in his duty. Instead, he felt something else. Pride. She did not need him to lead. She could do it herself. Had been doing it herself. He had given her authority, and she had seized it with both hands. Maybe that was what a good king did. Surround himself with people who were strong enough to lead without him. Trust them. Let them. He drifted back to sleep with that thought warming him more than the blankets. He woke a few hours later to find Stone sitting in the chair beside his bed, cleaning his sword with methodical strokes. "You look like hell. Thank you for your honesty, as always." "That is what you pay me for." Stone set aside his sword. "How do you feel?" "Like I was shot with an arrow." "Accurate." Stone leaned back, his weathered face showing more concern than he usually allowed. "You scared us. When you went down, I thought—" He stopped, started again. "I have known you 15 years, watched you take wounds that would have killed lesser men. But this one was close. I am still here, barely, and only because Mara is the best healer in 3 kingdoms. Stone fixed him with a look. "Why did you do it? Push her out of the way like that?" "You know why. I want to hear you say it. Because I love her. Because watching her die would have been worse than dying myself." Stone nodded slowly. "That is what I thought. You are a damn fool, you know that?" "I have been told. But you are a fool with good priorities. That counts for something." Stone stood, walked to the window, looked out at the besieged city. "She has been remarkable, leading the defense, making decisions that would have taken me hours to work through. The men follow her without question now. She has earned that." "Good. But she is also barely holding together. She does not eat, does not sleep, just works. Like if she stops for one moment, she will fall apart." Kaelen's chest tightened with something that was not physical pain. "I need to talk to her." "You will, but first you need to recover enough to sit up without passing out. Give it time." They sat in companionable silence for a while. Then Stone spoke again, his voice thoughtful. "I was wrong about her. When you first brought her to the council, I thought you were making a mistake. Thought she would betray you first chance she got. But she proved me wrong. She is good for you, good for the kingdom. She is everything." "Yes, so do not die on her. That is an order from your oldest friend." "I will do my best." Stone left shortly after. Kaelen lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and thought about how lucky he was to have people who cared enough to be honest, to challenge him, to call him a fool when he needed it. When he woke again, Seraphina was sitting beside his bed. She looked exhausted, her face drawn, dark circles under her eyes. She was staring at him with an expression he could not quite read. "You are awake." "I am. Apparently I have been sleeping on the job." "You took an arrow for me." "Yes." "Why?" "Because the alternative was watching you die. That was not acceptable." She looked away. He saw her jaw tighten, saw her fighting for control. "You could have died, but I did not." "You could have. The arrow was inches from your heart. Mara said if it had gone any deeper." Her voice broke. She took a shaky breath. "You cannot do that again. You cannot just throw yourself in front of arrows for me." "I can and I will, every time. That is not negotiable." "Kaelen? No. Listen to me. I love you. I have loved you since the day you slapped me in front of 5,000 people, and I will take 1,000 arrows before I let one touch you. That is not heroism. That is not duty. That is just fact." Seraphina was crying now, silent tears tracking down her cheeks. She reached out, took his hand, held it like a lifeline. "I love you too, and I hate you for making me feel this way, for making me terrified, for making me realize how much I need you." "Good, now we are even," she laughed. It was a wet, broken sound, but genuine. She wiped her eyes with her free hand. "The coalition sent a negotiator this morning. They want to discuss terms." "What kind of terms?" "Surrender, but not unconditional. They are willing to let North Haven remain independent if we cede the Western Territories and pay reparations." "What did you tell them?" "That I would bring their offer to you when you woke. But between us, I think they are scared. The sortie hurt them worse than we thought. 3 siege engines destroyed, supply lines disrupted, and now they know we are willing to fight. They expected easy conquest. They got bloodied instead." Kaelen processed that. "Can we hold? If they commit to a long siege? Probably not. But I do not think they will. This was supposed to be a quick land grab. Instead, it is turning into a costly war. Their alliance is fragile. If we can hold out another week, I think they will break." "Then we hold." "You need to rest." "I will rest. After I address the troops. After I show them their king is alive and ready to fight." "Kaelen, you can barely sit up." "Then help me sit up." She did. Slowly, carefully, supporting his weight as he struggled upright. The movement sent agony lancing through his chest. He gritted his teeth and endured. "You are insane. You knew that when you fell in love with me." "Fair point." He addressed the troops from the walls that evening. Leaning heavily on Seraphina, his chest wrapped in enough bandages to immobilize his left arm. He spoke for maybe 2 minutes, told them they were winning, told them the coalition was scared, told them to hold fast just a little longer. When he finished, the cheers shook the walls. The coalition broke on the 8th day, not all at once, not with a dramatic surrender, but slowly, inevitably, like ice cracking under spring sun. First, the Ironwood Vale contingent withdrew. They took their 3,000 troops and marched south, citing supply issues and the onset of autumn rains. The northern column from Greystone Keep lasted another day before following suit. Their commander sent a polite letter explaining that they had achieved their objectives and saw no reason to continue the siege. It was face-saving nonsense. Everyone knew the truth. They were beaten, and they knew it. That left only West March, 5,000 troops, still dangerous, but no longer overwhelming. And their commander, a shrewd man named Lord Aldrich, was smart enough to know when to fold. He requested a meeting, neutral ground, 3 representatives from each side. Kaelen went despite Mara's protests, brought Stone and Seraphina with him, met Lord Aldrich in a tent erected halfway between the walls and the West March camp. Lord Aldrich was in his 50s, gray-haired and scarred, with the look of a man who had fought in too many wars to romanticize combat. He had a tactical eye that immediately assessed Kaelen's condition, the way he held himself to minimize pressure on his wounded chest, the careful breathing that suggested pain with every movement. "You fought well," he said without preamble. "Better than we expected. Your military advisor is quite talented." "She is," Kaelen agreed. Seraphina stood at his right hand, her face unreadable. The wolf inside him stirred protectively at Aldrich's appraising look. "Mine, ours, threatened," he forced it down. "My allies have abandoned me. Ironwood Vale cited supply issues, but we both know they lost their nerve. Greystone Keep followed because they saw which way the wind was blowing. I could continue the siege alone, but that would be foolish. So I am here to discuss terms, not surrender, mutual cessation of hostilities." "What are your terms?" I withdraw my forces peacefully. You agree not to pursue. We sign a 5-year non-aggression pact to give both our kingdoms time to recover. After that, we can negotiate trade agreements, maybe even a formal alliance. My kingdom produces wool and grain. Yours has iron and timber. There is profit to be made if we can move past this unpleasantness. Kaelen leaned forward slightly, ignoring the pain it caused. You attacked us, killed our people, destroyed 3 weeks of grain stores, and now you want us to just let you walk away and call it an alliance? Aldrich met his eyes without flinching. Yes, because the alternative is I dig in for a winter siege that neither of us can afford. Your walls will hold, probably, but your people will starve. My people will freeze. In spring, we start again, and more people die. Or we can be smart. End this now. Live to see another day. Build something better than endless war. Seraphina spoke for the first time. What guarantee do we have that you will honor this pact, that you will not simply regroup and attack again in 6 years instead of 5? Aldrich looked at her with genuine respect. You have my word, and before you dismiss that as worthless, consider this. I am a practical man. This campaign has cost me half my treasury and 1,000 good soldiers. I learned something valuable. North Haven is not weak. It is led by a king smart enough to listen to good advice and an advisor brilliant enough to give it. Attacking you again would be throwing good money after bad. I would rather trade with you than bleed against your walls. Kaelen looked at Seraphina. She gave the barest nod, then added in a low voice meant only for him, He is telling the truth. I can hear it in how he frames his losses. This hurt him more than he expected. He will not come back. 5 years, Kaelen said to Aldrich. Non-aggression, sealed with a blood oath if your kingdom still honors such things. You pay reparations for the soldiers you killed and the grain you destroyed. We establish trade routes within 6 months, and I want a personal meeting with you and the other coalition leaders within the year to discuss not just trade, but a permanent peace, a defensive alliance that benefits all of us. Aldrich considered this, stroked his graying beard. A defensive alliance. That is ambitious. But given what I have seen of your military capabilities, perhaps not foolish. Agreed, all of it, including the blood oath. They shook hands. Then, in a ritual older than kingdoms, they each drew a knife and made a shallow cut across their palms, gripped hands mixing blood. 5 years of peace, Aldrich said formally, sealed in blood and honor. 5 years, Kaelen agreed, and then we see what comes next. The siege was over. The city celebrated for 3 days. Wine flowed freely. Music filled the streets. People danced and sang and gave thanks that they had survived. Kaelen spent most of the celebration in bed, recovering from his wound. But on the 3rd night, he was finally strong enough to stand for more than a few minutes at a time. He found Seraphina on the walls, watching the festivities below. You should be resting, she said without turning around. I have rested enough. 3 days is my limit. Your wound is healing. Mara checked it this morning, said I am making good progress. She finally turned to look at him, studied his face in the torchlight. What do you want, Kaelen? I want to ask you a question, the one I said I would ask when the war was over. Her expression shifted, became guarded. It has not been a year. No, it has been 11 months since you asked me to wait. 11 months of war and siege and almost dying. We are 4 weeks away from the full year, but I realize something. Life is too short to wait for the perfect moment, and I have waited long enough. He took her hand, did not kneel. They were past that kind of gesture. Marry me. Not because I am a king and you are a general, not because it makes political sense, but because I love you. Because you make me want to be better than I am. Because the thought of spending the rest of my life without you is unbearable. Kaelen, I know you cannot forgive me for your father. Maybe you never will. I accept that. I am not asking you to forget. I am asking you to choose to build something new despite the pain, to take a chance on us. Seraphina was quiet for a long time. He waited, heart pounding, afraid of her answer. The wolf inside him held its breath. I have a condition, she said finally. Anything. Rivenwood remains independent. Not a province of North Haven. Not conquered territory. An independent kingdom with me as its ruler. We marry as equals. 2 kingdoms, 2 rulers, an alliance of partnership. Done. And we adopt. I know neither of us can have biological children. But there are orphans from the war, children who need families. We give them that. I would like nothing more. And you stop throwing yourself in front of arrows. That is non-negotiable. I will try, but no promises. She stepped closer, put her hand on his chest, right over his bandaged wound. You almost left me. Do you know what that felt like? Watching you fall, thinking you were dead. I felt like my heart was being torn out. I am sorry. Do not be sorry, just do not do it again. Is that a yes? Yes, you impossible man. Yes, I will marry you. He kissed her, gentle because his chest hurt, and sudden movements made him dizzy. She kissed him back, careful of his injuries, her hands soft on his face. When they broke apart, both of them were smiling. When? He asked. Spring, after the winter, after Rivenwood is rebuilt. We do it properly, 2 kingdoms coming together. I can wait until spring. Liar, but I appreciate the effort. They stood on the walls together, watching the celebration below, and for the first time in 15 years, Kaelen felt truly at peace. The wolf settled into contentment. She was his. They were pack. Everything else was details. They married in the spring, as promised. The ceremony was held at the border between North Haven and Rivenwood, in a meadow where wildflowers bloomed in riots of color. 5,000 people attended. Citizens from both kingdoms, nobles and commoners alike, standing together to witness what many thought impossible. 2 altars, 2 ceremonies, one in the North Haven tradition, one in Rivenwood's. They exchanged vows in front of both kingdoms, promising partnership, respect, equality. Seraphina wore white silk embroidered with silver thread, the pattern depicting intertwined wolves and oak trees, symbols of both kingdoms united. Kaelen wore black velvet with gold trim, his formal armor polished until it shone. They looked like what they were, royalty, but also like what they were becoming, partners. The vows were not traditional. They had written them together, sitting up late in Kaelen's study, arguing over words and meaning and what promises they could realistically keep. Seraphina wanted honesty over poetry. Kaelen wanted substance over spectacle. When the moment came, Kaelen's voice carried across the meadow, steady and clear. I vow to never rule over you, but always beside you, to value your voice as much as my own, to protect you when you need it and step back when you do not, to build something better than what came before. He paused, looked into her eyes, added words they had not rehearsed. I vow to honor your father's memory by being the man he asked me to be, to earn your forgiveness every day, to never take for granted the gift of your trust. Seraphina's hands trembled slightly as she spoke her vows. I vow to challenge you when you are wrong and support you when you are right, to remember what was lost but not be imprisoned by it, to forgive the past while building the future, to be your partner in all things. She took a breath, steadied herself. I vow to see you not as the conqueror who destroyed my kingdom, but as the man who helped me rebuild it, to choose hope over bitterness, to believe that love can grow even in the ruins of war. There was not a dry eye in the meadow. Even Stone had to wipe his face. They exchanged rings, simple bands of silver, no jewels, no ostentation, symbols of commitment, nothing more. When Kaelen slipped the ring onto Seraphina's finger, his hands were shaking. When she did the same for him, she smiled through her tears. The priest pronounced them married. The crowd cheered, and in that moment, standing in a field of flowers with 5,000 witnesses, Kaelen Stormrider knew that he had finally found what he had been searching for all these years. Not power, not victory, not the respect of kingdoms. Home. 5 years later, Kaelen sat in the garden and watched their children play. 4 of them now. War orphans, all of them. Children who had lost everything. Sarah, 12, with her mother's tactical mind and her father's stubborn streak. Marcus and Elena, 8-year-old twins who argued about everything. And Edmund, 4 years old, small and serious, named for the grandfather he would never meet. Seraphina emerged from the palace, saw him watching the children, and smiled. They are getting tall, she observed. They are eating us into poverty. She sat beside him on the bench. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that came from years of partnership. Do you ever regret it? She asked. The choices we made, the path we took. Never. You? Sometimes I wonder what Father would think, if he would be proud or disappointed. He would be proud. You built peace from war. You gave children a home. You made both kingdoms stronger. She leaned against him. He put his arm around her shoulders, careful and automatic after years of practice. I forgive you, you know. For Father, it took time, but I forgive you. Kaelen felt something release in his chest, a tension he had carried for 6 years. Thank you. Do not thank me, just keep being worthy of it. Every day, I promise." They sat together as the sun climbed higher, watching their children play, listening to them argue about whether knights were cooler than archers. It was not perfect. They still argued, still disagreed about policy and parenting. Kaelen still had nightmares sometimes. Seraphina still flinched when she saw certain battlefields. But they had this, each other. The children. 2 kingdoms at peace. A future that stretched out before them, full of possibility. "I love you," Kaelen said. "I know, you tell me every day. And I will tell you every day for the rest of our lives." She kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. Behind them, through the palace windows, their children's laughter echoed. The sound of hope, the sound of tomorrow. The sound of something worth fighting for. The end.